Today, we're going to unpack a simple, kind of radical idea that took a restaurant from dead last to the best in the entire world. It's a philosophy called unreasonable hospitality. And really, it's a story about how hitting rock bottom can be the absolute best thing that ever happens to you.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. You're at the biggest award ceremony of your career. The room is jam-packed with your heroes, all the titans of your industry. You're sitting there, on the edge of your seat, just waiting to see where your restaurant ranks. And then the host steps up to the mic to announce the very first name on the list for last place. And it's you.
For Will Guidara and his team at 11 Madison Park, that moment was just pure public humiliation. But listen, this is not a story about failure. No way. It's the story of how that crushing defeat became the spark for a revolution in service, a philosophy that would take their restaurant from number 50 to number 1 in the whole world.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 2010. Will Guidara and his partner, Chef Daniel Hum, are at the world's 50 Best Restaurants Awards. This is their first time even being invited, and they're hoping to make a really strong debut.
The wind was just knocked right out of them. 50th place, dead last. And as they're slumping in their chairs, just completely mortified, they realize their devastated faces are being projected onto a 30-foot screen for the entire industry to see. The night was over before it even really began. So later that night, they're drowning their sorrows on the hotel steps, and Guidara has this light bulb moment. He realizes that while every single great restaurant was obsessed with being unreasonable about its food, the sourcing, the prep, perfection on the plate, nobody was being truly unreasonable about how they made people feel. And right there, on a crumpled cocktail napkin, he wrote 2 words: unreasonable hospitality.
So out of this really painful moment comes this powerful new philosophy. And when he says unreasonable, he doesn't mean irrational or difficult. He means going so far beyond what's expected that it almost defies logic. And this whole thing started by asking a really simple but profound question. What is the real difference between service and hospitality?
And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out, right? Service is technical. It's black and white. It's getting the right food to the right table at the right time. It's basically a monologue. But hospitality is color. It's emotional. It's about turning that monologue into a real dialogue and transforming simple competence into a genuine human connection.
So, that was it. They decided to go full Technicolor. They made a commitment to offer hospitality so bespoke, so incredibly detailed, and so over the top that the only word for it was unreasonable. This became their new North Star for everything. But here's the thing. Philosophy is kind of useless without a team to actually make it happen. Guidara and Hum knew they had to build a culture where every single person, from the top chef to the person clearing plates, felt empowered to be unreasonable. So get this. An early review of the restaurant said it needed more Miles Davis. And instead of getting all defensive, they just embraced it. They created this list of words that described the jazz legend's whole vibe, and they made it their roadmap. Why these words? Because they wanted a culture that was cool, not stuffy, collaborative, not top-down, and spontaneous, not rigid. From then on, every decision was filtered through this list. Guidara knew that just telling people, hey, you're empowered, wasn't going to cut it. To make the team truly feel a sense of ownership, well, you actually have to give it to them.
So they created these things called ownership programs. For example, a junior food runner who is secretly a huge beer fanatic, they put him in charge of the entire beer program. And pretty soon, 11 Madison Park was listed as having one of the best beer lists in America. This tapped into the hidden passions of the team and gave everyone a real chance to make a huge impact.
All right, so the culture is in place, everyone's fired up, it's cool to care, and now the team is free to create some real magic. They started turning simple, overheard comments into legendary stories. One day, Guidara overhears a table of tourists from Spain saying this as they're finishing up their meal. It was the very last thing on their New York food bucket list. So what does he do? He literally sprints out the front door, buys a hot dog from a cart on the corner, and runs it back to the kitchen. Then the 4-star kitchen plates this $2 hot dog with perfect little swooshes of ketchup and mustard. The guests were stunned, and then they were just ecstatic. These moments became known as legends. Because here's the thing, people forget transactions, but they remember stories. And this gave them a story they would tell for the rest of their lives. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds super expensive. But it wasn't about having an unlimited budget. It was about being strategic. Guidara came up with what he called the rule of 95-5. You manage 95% of your business with intense fiscal discipline,
but you free up that last 5% to spend, foolishly, on creating these huge emotional returns.
And these legendary moments weren't just random acts of kindness, it wasn't just luck, there was a repeatable process. It all started with listening, like really listening, then identifying that one small opportunity, executing on it with intention, and ultimately creating a story that the guests could take with them forever.
So with this new philosophy firing on all cylinders, you've got the culture of empowerment, the 95-5 rule, the creation of legends. The team at 11 Madison Park began this just truly remarkable climb.
The results were just staggering. That unreasonable focus on hospitality paid off in a massive way. From that humiliating night at number 50 in 2010, they just soared. By 2012, they were number 10. By 2016, number 3. And then, in 2017, just 7 years after hitting rock bottom, 11 Madison Park was named the #1 restaurant in the world.
And look, this is not just a lesson for restaurants, not at all. Whether you're a real estate agent, a software developer, or a doctor, these principles are totally universal. It's all about shifting from just transactions to actual relationships. It's about finding that 5% you can use to create a real human connection.
Ultimately, the huge takeaway here is that in a world that's more and more focused on just efficiency and automation, the single most powerful way to stand out is to make people feel seen, heard, and cared for. Technical excellence? That just gets you in the game. But unreasonable hospitality, that's how you win.
So that leaves us with one final thought. What small, foolish investment could you make? What kind of legend could you create for a customer, or a colleague, or even someone in your community? What would happen if you gave yourself permission to give just a little bit more than anyone expects? The answer just might change everything.